YouTube Blackbelts. We finally have it. It is here. Super excited to be bringing you this. You already know what it is from the thumbnail, obviously, and we are dying to see this. And as usual, we have waited until the middle of the beginning of winter to be reviewing this wonderful creation, which is called the F-14 Tomcat Twin 40mm EDF. This is a scale jet for experienced pilots. Now, let's talk about that for just a quick second. Yes, this does come with AS3X and safe. Safe, of course, auto leveling, but they are calling this a skill level 3. Okay, why are they calling it a skill level 3? I think the primary reason that they're calling it a skill level 3, this is a twin brushless EDF model that's 4S capable, and it's got sweep wing design. Okay, so because of the sweep wing, there are 3 unique flight profiles that you're gonna have to create, which is not a big deal, and we'll show you how to do that in this video in the Unbox Build radio setup. But as you can see, this looks a lot like a UMX. Of course, this is not an Ultra Micro Extreme, which is what a UMX is, but I may accidentally refer to it as a UMX because it is sort of like a UMX.
It's like a UMX box.
That's
like a giant UMX box.
Oh, it looks so delicious.
Oh man.
I am super, super excited for this. Okay, so here goes nothing, guys. Oh, there is an addendum in here. Read before setup and flying, okay? So as you can see, this is printed on, man, they must have spent a lot to print
really
this.
important.
Because it's like yellow,
Yep.
and then there's white backdrops. That's very weird. I kind of like that they included this. It is challenging to hold from what I understand. Okay, there's a mold line. They talk about all this stuff. And don't worry, it's only like 1 page in each language, okay? And yet they still folded it. Okay, I'm not gonna quit just quite yet. We're gonna keep moving. I don't like folded documents, you may have noticed. Okay, there's a piece of Velcro in here, okay? That holds the nose down, okay? So a little foam to protect the foam from the foam, looking very sweet from above. Okay, we're gonna trim this out. Okay, as you can see, now I was just having this interesting conversation just the other day, and I was thinking, twin 40mm EDF. I wonder what else we could do with that. Very interesting. Don't have to cut the tape for some reason. Not sure why that is. Probably because ours was tested by a million different people. Oh yes, look at this beauty. It looks so much better than it does on the outside of the box, I must say. The canopy is glorious, the dual pilots, oh yes. Oh, it's finally in my hands. Oh, it looks so good, the cheaters. Oh, look at this. Oh yes, I'm loving it. Even though it has disgusting fixed gear, I love everything else about it so far. Whoa. We have smart motors, or not smart motors, but yes, we do have smart motors. Looks so good. The lines are way better than I thought they were gonna be. Really excited to see this thing fly. Okay, let's lay it on its beautiful undercarriage here. Now I must say, as much as I hate the undercarriage being fixed, it is what it is. On a small plane, you're not gonna get away with having retracts and having good functionality because you're gonna give up so much on the weight. I don't think that they could have made it work. And the other thing too is I must say, that thing is gonna fly on a 4S 2200.
That is crazy.
That is a small plane
Yeah.
with a big battery. And I gotta say, we actually are thinking that it's gonna have some crazy high wing loading because look how small that package is. So I'm super excited. Let's give them a shot of the box real quick when you're done showing them the beautifuls. Obviously you can see it's very cool artwork. There are 3 wing setting modes, okay? So you're gonna have all the way out, halfway back, and then of course, you know, the all the way retracted or all the way swept. And so there's gonna be 3 flight modes, or actually I think we have 2 flight modes. Is that what it is? 2 unique flight modes? And that's the way we're gonna make this thing fly reasonably well, because I guess kind of the big ticket problem that the engineering was to resolving trim differential in the different sweep settings, okay? So we're gonna help you guys establish that. We're also just gonna give you guys a quick look at this. Obviously this is, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out, is it like super delicate? It feels like it's got plastic in the places where you would expect there to be plastic. Like this is all plastic here. Feels like this part of the wing is foam, but then there's like a glue joint there. That's kind of interesting. I'm not sure why that is. Looks like kind of a different mechanism there. I've not seen that before. This is plastic here. Carbon fiber spars in the wings. That's good. Got big cheaters here, another cheater here, cheaters here. For the ESCs, it looks like. Ventral fins look good. Looks like this one got dragged on the ground by somebody, not me. And yes, full functioning stabilators, okay? Now these ones are actually going to give you your roll, so they are actually televators because of the nature of this plane. There are no ailerons in this configuration, but on the full scale F-14, those would be spoilers and these would be flaps because they don't use them as ailerons that I know of. They use the spoilers along with the televators or the televons in this case, if it was on a full scale F-14. And then there was this early revision of the F-14 that actually had a little wing that came out here too, but most people don't ever talk about that. It was almost like a canard, but it wasn't a canard. So it wasn't a canard, but it was just basically a stabilizer that came out. So really cool, super excited to see the scale lines on it are really nice. I didn't know what to expect, and I can definitely say that the box kind of doesn't do it justice. I think it points out some of the issues that I had with the smaller size. I feel like this looks kind of sloppy here. But then if you look at it in the real final revision, I don't know if maybe they took those pictures really early. It looks a lot better on here than I thought it would. So that's really nice. So super excited to see this go together. Obviously steerable nose gear, this landing gear, the landing gear are actually capable of coming out. It's not a big deal. You just have to pull them straight out. I'm actually not pulling them out because I'm gonna do wheels up, wheels down. And then there is another feature that's built into the AS3X and safe, that's gonna be a hand launch aid. And what's gonna happen is when you hand launch, it will provide some extra thrust and up elevator into the assumption that it is being thrown, okay? So the G-forces and everything are being measured by the AS3X in safe only when you're in safe mode. So launch this thing in safe mode generally is a good idea, but just as usual with safe, give yourself lots of room because things are sort of semi-autonomous at that point and you don't want it to like go up into a tree. So these are just things they warned us about a few of these details with this, and that's something we don't normally do. We don't normally talk about the planes before we see them, but this one has been hard fought. So I wanted to get as much information as possible and it looks really good. So without further ado, there's not gonna be a lot of build. And I also just wanna get this elephant out of the room. 3.08 is what we're at now. If you're watching this video and some other bug came up, then that will need to be resolved. We were at 3.017, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
But now we're at 3.8. So anyway, it's still considered somewhat of a beta release, which I really don't understand. But just make sure you update your firmware because there were some warning screens that were coming up that people were having challenges with. We only saw the warning screens come up and it was like a green screen and then it disappeared. So it must have been like a differential in cell voltages, but there was no explanation for what that warning meant. It was just like green, yellow, or red. And some people have been experiencing problems in the 3.17 release. So if you did the 3.17 early release and then the second release, which was beta, they've also released here just the other day to resolve those problems. So they're totally shut off. Also, we are gonna be using a 4S 30C pack. We have 4S all the way up to 100C pack. But the thing is, I wanna make sure that we demonstrate that it will handle on 30C as well as it will on the other C packs. The longer packs should fit, but we're gonna start out with this. And that's partly because we've got them ready to go. Okay, so we're gonna make sure when we're filming this, we show the radio setup in its entirety. Obviously the build is super easy. You take it out of the box, which is one of the things we like.
My favorite.
Okay, so I also noticed that this is, I realized I forgot my manual That's an addendum. This is a manual. So we were getting ready to sit down to do that radio setup, and I'm like, oh wait, this isn't a manual, it's just an addendum. So on the bottom of the box, as we found from previous installments, ours was taped to the bottom. So, sorry I forgot that, guys. So we've got the regular manual here. We'll just break this sucker out. The instruction manual. Okay. So it shows information. It's got different information here, it looks like, on the telemetry setup. We're not actually going to use this one. We're going to use that one. But it does show where the CG is. Is there a mark for the CG? Do you see anything?
It's marked at the panel line.
Okay.
But is it actually marked?
Yeah, maybe, sort of. That doesn't even look like the panel lines. I can't distinguish that. Those...
Upside down?
Oh, yeah, that's true. Good point. Yep. So they're saying this line is the center of gravity right there. Which makes sense. It's right where the wheel hooks in. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through the radio setup, and I hope that things go really smooth. It shouldn't be super hard. We just have to set up a few flight modes, and these flight modes are going to help us to be able to change trim with the wings in different positions. Because if you've ever had a plane that has flaperons and it behaves weird with flaperons down, then you can correct that weird behavior, specifically speaking to trim, by having trims attached to your flight modes, okay? So this addendum is what comes to supplement this, okay? So work through this first, and that's what we're gonna do right now. Okay, so they show the NX series setup. Looks pretty straightforward so far. They want the F mode set to switch D. I'm not using switch D. Dual rates to switch F. So they're suggesting that you separate your, well, it's the same settings for the ailerons and elevator. See this? It's the same settings. So I'm gonna set those to the same settings as I've always set them to, which is on switch F in my case. You guys may choose to separate them, that's fine. You do what you gotta do there. Throttle cut, same on H as usual. IX has a totally different setup. And then DX, of course, has a slightly separate setup too. Let's see what else they say. Okay, so trimming the F-14. The trim process involves trimming for level flight. Okay, so yeah, so you want the wings out, and then the wings halfway, and then the wings fully retracted for your 3 different maiden flights, is what they suggest. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna allow you to get your trim saved for each of those modes, and we'll demonstrate kind of what it looks like, but then we'll just recenter them for our actual true maiden flights. So when you see our maiden flights on this plane, you may notice that we have short flights, we land, and then we do our adjustments, you know, then we put it up for another flight and do more adjustments, put it up for another flight and do more adjustments. So I think that's part of the reason why this ends up being an experience level 3. Okay, so hopefully this isn't too terribly boring, but we are gonna do our normal radio setup now. Okay, so the powering on the transmitter, we're gonna hit cancel and back, add a new model, create. So it takes a little bit to create a new model. And then we're just gonna follow along the steps like what we would normally do in the manual. It's taking a long time today though. Okay, so model select we already did, model type. You'll note that it doesn't say anything about setting up the model type. Excuse me, it's the airplane, just the acro. So we're gonna type in the name. This is, I use the legacy keyboard if you haven't already figured that out. So this is gonna be F-14, so we'll come right back when we're done typing. Okay, so we got the name in there, F-14 Tomcat Twin 40. Then we're gonna go to the aircraft type. They don't actually tell us where to, like what to set. So I assume we're gonna leave it normal. And the only thing is I wanna change the image. Image from file, no image, standard image. Image from file, standard image. Okay, there we go. And you can get images and put them on here. I'm just not sure how to do it because I don't care that much. I'm just gonna put it as a jet. F mode setup. Okay, so we do need to go into F mode and they talk about it right here. Set F mode to switch D. Now I'm doing switch B, okay? So switch 1, not D, I'm doing B, okay? So you still have 3 switch modes, just like you would if you were to use D. I just have a harder time getting to switch D than I do to switch B, okay? And then this is, you can see those modes, okay? Now they're not talking about the spoken mode, but I'm gonna talk about it now. So this isn't gonna be safe or not. This is gonna be swept or not. So let's see, let's go ahead and make our assignments now in terms of what we wanna call them. So this is gonna be flight mode 1. Let's change what it says by hitting cancel, cancel. And then I'm gonna have wings all the way, that's gonna be wings swept, okay? So then it's gonna be like flaps on, so like takeoff flaps. Excuse me, landing flaps, takeoff flaps. Let's see if we can make some sense of this. This would be normal flight mode. So then this would be like takeoff flaps and landing flaps in a normal plane. So I almost feel like it needs to be somewhat reversed because this would be like takeoff flaps and then like landing flaps. Excuse me, this would be landing flaps, right?
Mm-hmm, I think.
So that'd be like wings out all the way, then wings middle, and then wings all the way back would be normal flight mode. I'm just not sure if I want the normal flight mode to be that way. I almost feel like it's sort of counterintuitive. It's like backward. Well, I think what I'm gonna do is I'll just make that my normal flight mode, which is gonna be with wings out, because I think I'm gonna put the wings in less frequently. I'm just thinking about muscle memory decisions right now. For me, I'm gonna wanna take off like that, which is gonna sweep the wings. So I'll just have to think about it. Okay, so this mode's gonna be wings out. So I don't know if I can spell that all the way out. Wings. Well, I went the wrong way. Wings out. And I don't want to have ambiguity, okay? That's why I'm labeling this. So this might need to say something like normal. Let's see what we got. Normal mode. Normal mode. We might pause and look through this and come right back and show you what we put. So we chose the word normal. I don't know if that's gonna work. So like this might be one occasion where we just can't do a spoken mode that really makes sense. So this is gonna be like the partially swept. So I'm gonna hit cancel, cancel, and that's gonna give us the ability to type in what we want, which I'm gonna do wings again, except I'm gonna say wings swept half or something like that. Okay, so we did wing half swept because you can't do wings half swept, you lose the T. So then for the speak, I'm not sure what we're gonna put, but we'll find something to tell you what we put. Okay, so the best I can do is medium. So it says wings half swept, wings out, wings half swept, and then this is gonna be like wings full swept. So we'll type that in and come right back. Okay, so we did the words wing full swept, and then we have to come up with some sort of a word for it, and we'll show you what we pick. Okay, so this is the best we came up with. Wings out.
Landing mode. Medium. Speed mode.
That was the best we could come up with. So, I mean, they're not really that articulate, but it's fine. It's good enough. Okay, so then also I'm gonna have to assign away channel B from auxiliary 2. Okay, so I'm just gonna inhibit that because I wanna use B to control our flat mode, okay? So otherwise that would ordinarily control auxiliary 2. So I'm just gonna decouple that by hitting inhibit. Okay, and then trim setup. This is something you have to do, that's something we haven't done very often. See how it says common digital? We want this to be attached to flight mode, and we want this attached to flight mode. Rudder is non-existent in the airframe. There's just steerable nose gear, so you could actually change that if you wanted, but it's not gonna matter unless you, I mean, you're not gonna really be flying so much. And you can also set, I don't know what that means, but they want you to set that to F mode. So that means basically when you're in different flight modes, you're gonna have trims associated with all of them, okay? So then they want us to set up dual rates, obviously throttle cut. So, oh, you know what else we wanna do? I wanna do a digital switch audio event, because I'm gonna have my safe on here. So switch changes, add a new event. I want this to be tied to switch A. Okay, in position 0, you can see 0 is back. So I would like that to be AS3X. So we'll just come down to where AS3X is, which is like about down here. We'll come right back. Okay, so AS3X mode, and then we'll set this one to safe mode, and then you'll know which one you're in. Although, just a warning, you may be getting this backwards. You might have to switch them. And then safe mode, okay? Now, keep in mind that doesn't set your mode. It's just an audio event that we've created to help us understand what the switch conditions are. Okay, so then I want to set up throttle cut. Throttle cut is just a good idea, even though it's an EDF plane. I'm gonna set it to switch H. And whoa, did you see that? That thing didn't come alive. Did you see that?
Oh, it didn't.
So probably a new bug with the firmware update, but that's fine. Not really worried about it right now. And then we need to set up dual rates and expo. Now, dual rates and expo, you'll note that on this instruction manual, they show dual rates and expo for aileron and elevator to be set the same. Meaning that you could change your dual rates for one, and then you could change your dual rates for the other. Now, I am still going to tie them together, and you may find that you want to actually have them separated. That's fine. If you do, it's really easy. Just instead of picking the same switch, you pick different switches. Okay, it's not that big a deal. But in our case, they're suggesting rates at 100% and expo at 10 on the high rates, switch up. And then they're suggesting in low rates, but then they have assigned it to a 3-position switch, but they've only indicated what they want settings for 2 of them. So in my case, I think based on that, I'm gonna do my normal configuration, and I'm gonna tell you how I'm gonna do it. Okay, I'm gonna set it up the same way I always do, which is gonna be probably starting with their minimum setup. Then I'm gonna go just a little bit higher, 15, and then I'm gonna go even higher. I'm gonna double that up, and then I'm gonna drop my rates down to like 90. Okay, so that's on ailerons. That's where I'm gonna start. That's where I'm gonna be able to go to. This is where I'm gonna be able to go to if I need more, if I need less, if I need neutral, okay? So like the beginning starting point. Same thing here. I'm gonna set this the same. I'm gonna start with 10 at least, then I'm gonna go to 15, and then I'm gonna go to 30, and I'm gonna drop this down to 90. And you're like, but they said to go to 70 and 5 as opposed to 110. Well, that's fine. If you wanna do it that way, that's okay, no problem. And then rudder, I'm gonna set, even though we don't have rudders in the air, we're gonna set them the same just for easy figuring. Now keep in mind, this plane's not got a super long flight time. Okay, so now we're set the same for all 3, and we're tied to the same switch. That's gonna be one deviation from the way that the NX setup is from Spectrum, okay? Or from Horizon. We already set up the throttle cut. We already set up this. We already set up that. We already set up we did that. We did flight mode. Yep, that's done. Input a name for your model. Okay, we did everything. Okay, so now we should be able to bind this. Now I just want to show you something before we even bind. Okay, we're in wings out.
Medium. Speed mode.
Okay.
Landing mode. Safe mode. AS3A.
You'll note that it doesn't get its own screen position here. But if you want to have that on the screen, you can go into the system setup, disconnect RF, and go into flight mode, and you can set up a second flight mode, and that will occupy a position on your screen so you can see it here, okay? I don't necessarily recommend it, I'm just saying it's something you can do if you want. Now, also, at this point, we're pretty much ready to do regular binds. So this should be pretty easy now. Throttle cut's on. Oh, we didn't set up a timer. We should probably set up a timer, but let's look what the book says. Because this is an addendum, it's not gonna necessarily cover all the details. I just wanna go into here and just look at this. They're suggesting, you know, just the 14.8 volt 4S, okay? With an IC3 or IC, or an EC3. We've got an IC3 here. And it looks like they don't talk about, I bet they don't talk about the times. You know why? Because we have telemetry on this. We do talk about the position of the Teleron. Okay, so that's important. So we're supposed to be 6 millimeters up from the bottom of the lip here. So we'll look at that there. We shouldn't have to actually enable safe select, just so you know, on this part. It should be enabled by default to operate with the gear channel, which is why we did our audio event contingent on switch A, which is by default set to gear, okay? So we're gonna get ready to bind, but I think we should probably set up a timer still. Let's do a timer with a 1 out over 25%. And let's set it to 3 minutes. That's probably about right, but I don't know. Might be a little bit too long. At 1 minute, I want voice. At 20 seconds, I want nothing. At 10 seconds, I want a voice countdown. And then at expiration, I want tone and vibrate. And then a tone every minute thereafter. Okay, that's just personal preference stuff, but just so you know how to do it. Okay, now I don't know how this canopy comes off. I'm assuming we lift. I don't want to break it. I can't tell which direction it comes off, so I'm actually going to refer to the manual. This is because sometimes the paint will cause these canopies to stick. Looks like it goes in and back. Okay, so in and back. So we're doing it right. It's caught on this plastic here, and I don't want to damage it. So call me crazy, but it feels like that. How is that supposed to go forward? Or does it just lift like, oh, it just goes up. Okay, so you see the magnet, it's strong. It goes up and out like that. Okay, really simple. Although, I must say, the manual was certainly not very clear about that. Nah, they kind of did. They showed that. I just didn't interpret it very well. Okay, so this is all plastic here, guys. Really strong canopy latch. That's good. But you guys see what I'm doing? I'm lifting hard, and it just, you got to really hang on to it. Okay, so now inside of here, you've got your magnet. You've got tons of carbon fiber all over the place. Carbon fiber, carbon fiber, carbon fiber, carbon fiber, carbon fiber. Just in every direction. Then we have this piece of, that's like harder foam. I don't really, oh, that's to protect the linkage for the steerable nose gear from the battery pack itself. Okay, so that's good. Looks like on this one, there is some Velcro, which is gonna help to hold our pack in place. But since we're just binding right now, I'm gonna go ahead and just plug in the battery. It's gotta be on before we can bind. Okay, this is a 30C. It's got a little bit of a puff to it, which is not necessarily ideal, but it's definitely a reality that some of you might be facing as well. And you can see there's ample room to drop that lid down. And they have accommodated for the thickness of the wire, but you do have to have that flat. See what I'm talking about there? It's gotta be flat to fit. And I don't want that pressure on there, so I'm actually gonna rotate my cable like this. Maybe I need to lay my battery in there the other way. Let's try that. I just want to have an easy time getting this battery in, and then we'll probably do our shelf liner trick here in a minute. Okay. I don't know if you guys know this, but the F-14 has got to be like one of my favorite all-time planes in my history of aviation interest. Okay, you're going to see that that does not go on there right now. See, it doesn't fit. So I'm gonna see if I can resituate this battery into a different position. I actually have no idea where the battery is gonna go. I assume it's gonna go right here, but that's a 30C pack. And as you're gonna see, there's no ribs that go on the side. So I wonder if I can get it to go. See what I'm talking about, guys? This is a Gen 2 pack, a little bit puffed, which is not unusual for these batteries over time to get a little bit of puffage, but I wanna see if I can get this thing to go. Okay, so it's in now. I don't like that at all. See how it's pushed up? So we're gonna have to deal with that at some point. But for now, let's go ahead and go in and bind. So I'm gonna click into function list, scroll down to bind, and then highlight binding. You may notice that the wings sweep out. Okay, battery not charged for flying. Everything is initiated. Yep, we have movement. We have steerable nose gear, and I wanna just talk about this alarm. This is an alarm that's been annoying to us for a while. 15.39 volts, okay? I'm gonna scroll over to telemetry. Click into function, go to telemetry, smart battery. I want to have a startup warning if it is overcharged, no. Imbalance, no. And startup, we can do a startup of no. We're just gonna shut that off because it's really annoying. However, I do wanna have flight volts, okay? And honestly, I would like to have the smart ESC if we can.
No data.
Let's see if we can find that. Oop. Smart ESC. Okay, so that's cool. But I want to change this. We're in pause, I'll figure it out. Come on. Okay, so the flight pack milliamp hours, that's what I was curious about. Okay, and we're gonna set, all of these alarms are inhibited by default. I don't care about the max amps. I don't, actually that must not be what I want.
Alpha 6. No data.
Okay, so we're just gonna set it to volts, okay? And then we're just gonna go into LiPo and make sure it's highlighted as a 4S, okay? I'm not gonna set an alarm, but then what's gonna happen is we'll have a screen that will show us the voltage, okay? But look at that, we don't have volts. I wonder why that is. Should have voltage.
Yeah.
Why do we not have voltage? That's weird. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go into telemetry and auto config again and see what happens. I wonder if it just like didn't learn. Oh, look, there's a bunch of stuff now.
Oh.
Let's see if it worked this time. Yeah, there's our voltage. What the heck was that? Okay, so yep, I didn't have that, so I had to auto config myself. That's the first time I've had to do that outside of bind. Now you can see we're not fully charged, but it's not a big deal. We're at least charged enough to be able to do what we need to do. And there's altitude on here too. That's crazy. Does that really, is that true to form? I wonder if it's actually doing it. Okay, so AS3X is definitely working. Definitely doing some stuff. That's good. Okay, now I also haven't adjusted my wing condition, and this is gonna be like the money shot right here.
Medium. Speed mode. Landing mode.
Okay, so you know why that didn't do anything?
Why?
We never actually made an assignment. I wonder where that's supposed to be assigned. It never actually articulated that, did it? It just said switch D.
Oh.
So switch D is attached to whatever it is, okay? So what we need to do is we need to go into servo. We can just do this. We'll walk, sorry guys. We'll walk over to monitor mode, and we're gonna look for which one's attached. So it's auxiliary 1, okay? So I just need to make my adjustment. That does look sweet. There's quite the difference in position though, I notice. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see that too, but it looks like this wing is not all the way swept back as far as that one. Hope that doesn't become a problem. Okay, so I'm gonna scroll down to system setup, disconnect RF, and I'm gonna go into channel assign, and I'm just gonna basically make my assignment for auxiliary 2 to B. Excuse me, auxiliary 1 to B. and then auxiliary 2, I'm gonna inhibit. So my apologies, guys. I should have caught that and I didn't. Okay, so as you can see, the wings are out. That looks totally sweet. Elevator up, elevator down, roll left, roll right.
Safe mode. AS3.
I actually think I have my labels backward. Because right now, this says it's AS3X mode because our audio is saying AS3X, but it's actually not. You watch this. Auto leveling. Okay, so I have my audio vents backward. So the way I'm going to switch that is I'm going to show you this real quick.
Safe mode. AS3X mode.
Okay, so now I need to switch those audio vents, but I also want this to be switched. So I'll do that first.
Safe mode. AS3X mode.
Okay, so AS3X mode is currently active. See, we did get it right. Okay, so when it's in safe mode, you'll see it's going to attempt to auto level the plane. Now I want to point this out. Take this second to point out. That's gray. That's gray. This plane is going to be hard to distinguish up from down. Okay.
AS3X mode.
All right, so now that looks sweet. Up, down, roll left, roll right. Okay, let's look at this. Elevator all the way up or down. Okay. So I'm just gonna hold the stick here and just see if there's any differences. See how that changed slowly? Did you see what just happened there? Okay, same thing over here. So they've definitely got some things happening here. Okay, so just to be totally clear, we didn't have to set that up. All we had to do was activate the flight mode, okay? So now our flight mode also has some audio events attached to it. You don't have to do that. It's fairly easy to do it. I would suggest you do it, but I just wish we had some better audio nomenclature to call out, like wing swept, you know, mid sweep, you know, no sweep or something like that. Okay, so, oh yeah. Just a little bit of throttle there. Okay, so throttle cuts on again. I wanna try this real quick because I'm curious how powerful this thing is. So I'm gonna hold this plane and I'm gonna see if it'll fly straight. Definitely not enough power. Okay, it's not enough power to fly straight up in our hand, okay? So that's not a big surprise, but also I wanna point out something. This thing is not super sturdy. You see that? So be careful when you're holding your plane that you don't accidentally grab that and break it, okay? Now also, in talking about hand launch, this is gonna be a hand launchable plane. Make sure you're in safe if you hand launch, okay? So if you're in safe, mine's gonna call it out. Throttle cuts off. Now I wanna see what happens when I simulate a hand launch. I don't see anything happen. I think it's gonna have to be a real one because I think the throttle stick's gonna have to be up too. So obviously my throttle cuts off. I wanna try giving full throttle and simulate a hand launch. Can you see the elevator? I can't tell. I'm not gonna be able to simulate it, am I? Okay, so throttle cuts back on. You've got the hysteria of AS3X noise coming from the wings and the control surfaces. We can definitely see the corrections. Okay, as I go up, the elevators are gonna go up. They do. When I go down, it's gonna go down. They do. Oh wait, I'm in safe. Out of safe. Up is up, down is down. Roll, roll. I'm gonna check this direction. Don't have to check the wings, just have to check the ailerons. When I pull this plane like this, that should go up. It does. When I pull the plane up, this should go up as well. Up, okay. When I put both of them up, they should both go down. Everything is working there. So as you can see, the setup on this plane, even though I've complicated it with a few audio call outs, is really simple. Also, the wing sweep is super cool. It makes me nervous because it's like relatively slow change, but that's okay as long as it works. Now also I'm very nervous about flying this plane because I don't want to destroy it. But I can't wait to get it in the air. It's gonna be so cool. It's gonna be so cool. And I love the way that it looks. As you can see, it's not very big. Just to give you some size comparison, in terms of wingspan, the wingspan is almost as much as the F-16 80, which is incredible. So when the wings are swept though, it becomes basically a super small plane, okay? So look at the wings swept. Look at that.
Wow.
It's so much smaller. But this whole surface acts as a wing, which is pretty sweet. So really, really excited to see this thing in the air. We hope you guys enjoyed this video enough that you could give us a thumbs up. Obviously, we want to share all the different tips and tricks, but since this is kind of a new and unknown thing for us, we can't answer a lot more questions yet. But what you want to do is if you're watching this as an Unbox build radio setup, there's not much build, there's just radio setup. And it's a really simple radio setup, really, if you get right down to it. So I cannot wait to see it fly myself. And obviously, as we typically do, we're going to be releasing the footage for the flight right before the Unbox build radio setup. So if you're watching this and our flight for some reason hasn't been released, it's probably because we had terrible weather, which we do today. It's not blizzarding right now, but it was blizzarding about a half an hour ago. And so basically all day it's been terrible. And this is what tends to happen in the middle of fall in Iowa. So we get snowstorms. So hopefully you aren't getting snowstorms, and you can buy this thing from the link in the video description below and really help to support us financially with small commissions that come to us from the manufacturers we work with and not from you. You don't have to pay those things, which is really nice. Also, if you haven't already liked the video we asked earlier, definitely like the video. It helps with the long format. And if you like Patreon and PayPal, we have those options down below. And then Super Thanks. We just turned on Super Thanks. We had some people asking about Super Thanks. You can do that, and that's another way you can help support us financially. In terms of the direction, if you guys are concerned about how much of the money you give goes to us and doesn't go to the companies that provide these features, in order of the most efficiency, buy the planes. That's the best deal for everybody. Everybody wins. Probably I would say PayPal would be like the second one.
Friends and family.
Friends and family, not donations. Donations get feed pretty bad.
Similar to Patreon.
Similar to Patreon, not quite as bad. Patreon's pretty bad. It's like as high as 18% on small donations. And then Patreon would be the next one. And then Super Thanks. I think the percentage is pretty terrible also. So, but I mean, it's still, whatever works for you guys. We want to make it as easy as possible for you to support us if you want to. You know, back in the day, we bucked doing Patreon for a long time just because we felt like it was too much like begging, asking for money. But at the end of the day, if you guys want to support us, we wanted to have those options open. So we turned them on, but we still think by far the best thing you can do if you want to support Brian Phillips RC, what we're doing, the camera crew, our family, and just, you know, supporting our hobby, trying to grow this hobby, keep people from being one and dones, help people get back into the hobby that have left the hobby, have no clue what Spectrum is or what DSMX or whatever these technologies, AS3X and Safe, things like that. That's what we predominantly do here on the channel. And if you want to help us do more of it, the best thing you can do is buy planes. But supporting us in those other ways, we try not to make it a big thing, but we do want you to know that they are available. So the best thing you do is get these amazing things, because that's what we love doing and we want to bring you more. And the best way we can do it is to have good, strong relationships with all these different companies that make them, because then when we get a dud once in a while that crashes in a million pieces, then they don't hate our guts because we show it the way it happens. And if it's not a history of duds, like then you probably won't have a big issue with that. But we are super excited for this F-14. It has been super long anticipated. Oh, and by the way, I wanted to mention this, and I forgot to mention it at the beginning of the video, but you might be asking yourself, why did it take so long to get this F-14? You know, lots of things have happened since this thing came out. And one of them was COVID. There was a lot of supply chain issues, not the least of which was the shipping from China caused big complications on this plane. And then also, there was some technical things that a lot of people that really love this hobby weren't gonna let go. And that's one of the reasons why we love working with Eflite, Horizon Hobby, Spectrum, and this brand or group of brands, because when things aren't right, they're gonna put getting it right over getting it delivered on a certain schedule. And that's really nice because we have seen what happens with some alternative brands when they force the issue, release things a little bit premature. And we've seen, you know, how well that works, you know, because you end up with like V3 or 4 or 5 by the time you get something that's any good. So kudos to Horizon for actually waiting to release something that should be amazing. And I'm hoping that it's as amazing as we think it's gonna be. But at the end of the day, that's part of the reason why we love working with Eflite and Horizon Hobby, is because they're gonna put function over form on stuff like this. So we really appreciate that. And guys, thanks so much for watching our videos. We love doing this for you here on Brian Phillips RC. We hope that you guys will be part of the clan. Subscribe if you haven't already, and definitely click the bell for notifications if you want to know when we're releasing new footage. Now that we're getting into winter, essentially, it is a lot harder for us to keep up with our current pace. So we're gonna do our best. But at the end of the day, we want to be out flying just as bad as you do. But when it's like 30 below and the wind is 40 or 50 miles an hour, it just doesn't usually work that good.
Nope.
So we have to wait for a calm day that's still 30 below. Okay. And we'll do that, but it's going to be a little bit less frequent, which pains me to admit, but that's the truth. So in the meantime, we really appreciate you watching. Our videos are still, you know, literally thousands deep. If you're looking for something to meet your immediate needs, check out brianphillipsrc.com, and it will help you to sort through the thousands, the vast library of videos that we have already filmed for you. So we hope you'll stay tuned and come back for more. Thanks for watching.